The factory school model seems to be at a tipping point. In this unprecedented time of SARS-CoV-2 quarantines, I think something very eye-opening is being revealed about our public school system. It is ill-equipped to educate students for their own good. This is not to say that teachers, administrators, and coaches are bad at what they do. On the contrary, in my decade and a half of working inside this very system, I've had the opportunity to work alongside quite a few master teachers who were able to greatly affect the learning of their students. So what do I mean when I say the system is ill-equipped to educate students for their own good? And why, after 14 years, did I decide to leave the profession of public education so close to being able to get a small pension? Where do I start? Let me share an example from my own experience as a high school band director and music teacher. It's important for me to make sure that the students have what they need, even if the system does not have the funds for certain items. I'm also a small business owner who contracts DJ services for weddings and special events. Over the years of me teaching at the high school, I had the opportunity to create a technology-based music course. The problem here, of course, is that there was no equipment and little funding for this course. So, seeing a problem, I readily made my own personal equipment available to the students. Within one school year, the students and I promoted the music program at school by recording each group playing or singing the national anthem for the morning announcements for the whole school to hear every morning. We hosted a high school talent show where we operated everything from the stage lights to the music cues to the live music acts, staging, and everything else, and even set up a sound system for the fall homecoming pep rally. Now, we staged a full sound system that filled the entire gym full of screaming high school students that accommodated a mass choir, 2 wireless microphones for the MCs for the event, an amplified guitar, a bass, an electric piano, and even a DJ that accompanied the full marching band in a flash mob style performance. It was quite a production for sure, but none of it would have been possible without my personal equipment because the school didn't have the resources to accomplish a fraction of this. The use of my personal equipment for all of those functions would have cost any other entity approximately $4,000 to $5,000 at my going rate. Now, I donated these items to the school for use because there was a need. In my estimation, the trade-off was well worth it. I mean, as I think and try to imagine that same school year going by without those students having those chances to shine like that, it really just upsets me. I teach music. I love teaching music. I love making music. I love creating music. You know, it's kind of strange, but I can actually mark the moment I realized that I wanted to be a musician. I was in 5th grade. I was at a new school and they called for an assembly in the library. All the students made their way to the library and sat on the floor and waited to see what the assembly was about. There was a man sitting behind an electronic keyboard like this one with a headset microphone talking into a sound system. He wasn't a teacher, he was a guest of the school. He started talking about how great it was to make music, and pretty much at that point I started tuning him out, because at that point, 5th grade, I hadn't made any music, I didn't know what it was all about, no big deal. Until he asked everyone to be quiet and listen to something. He stretched out his hand and, extending his index finger, he pressed a button at the top of his keyboard. Whoa. The moment he hit the button, my world began to change. My ears were instantly focused by the familiar intro to one of my favorite cartoons at the time. I'm going to date myself now. The cartoon was actually Disney's DuckTales. Don't judge me. But anyways, the slap bass and octaves, the driving tempo, those horns, it was so much. It was just too much for my 5th grade brain. How did this one man create every part of an entire song by himself? That was what I was thinking. I couldn't even understand how he could do that. Apparently, I wasn't alone in my amazement. The teachers had to, at that point, do everything they could to manage this entire 5th grade class that was now not sitting on the floor. We were running around the room, dancing and singing along and all these other things. It may seem small to you, but to a 5th grader, it seemed more than exciting. It seemed like his performance was full of wisdom, like he was creating something that we were familiar with. It seemed to me to be a goal to be attained. So 30 years and 2 music degrees later, I still find myself on the path of attaining that goal, but the process of attaining that goal has been my education. There have been many obstacles along the way. Saxophone rental fees, transportation to events, late nights rehearsing, fear of failing. I even had a summer where I didn't play saxophone because I had severed a tendon in my pinky finger. Can't even straighten it to this day. I had to have surgery on it. So many other obstacles even besides that, but these obstacles were dealt with almost exclusively by my loving parents. There was certainly instruction from the fantastic music teachers that I had 4 of them. They were all amazing. But my parents were the driving force behind my education, not the system that I found myself in. The system was able, through that assembly, to attract me to an idea. But the work that needed to be done between 5th grade and 2 music degrees is I had to be shepherded by a constant force. Yes, I went to public school, but I was educated through the hard work of my parents. The biblical lessons that I learned from them about punctuality, commitment, honesty, integrity, truth, patience, obtaining knowledge, and so much more are what has led me to be able to arrive at my current state, and of course, keep me learning as I get older. Imagine if the school system of our time wasted no effort on building up strong individuals. Imagine if the goal of the system were not to give a student tools for their own autonomy, but instead tools for their own docility. It pains me to say it, but this is how I see the system today. And honestly, how could it be otherwise? In John Taylor Gatto's book, The Underground History of American Education, he purports that much of the current educational system was birthed out of the ideas of a small number of passionate ideological leaders who visited Prussia in the first half of the 19th century, fell in love with the order, obedience, and efficiency of its educational system, and then campaigned relentlessly thereafter to bring the Prussian vision to our shores. To do that, children would have to be removed from their parents and inappropriate cultural influences. This video is probably not the time to travel deeper down that line of thought, but I intend to do so soon. But as you listen, think for yourself. Is it better for education to build up the individual to explore the world that we've been given? Or to train an individual to fit in and conform to the patterns of this world? I want to explore a better way to educate students. This is one reason why I walked away from the system.